Hey YouTube, we are back again this week for another video portion of the Daily Dose Sports Podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed these last few that we've been putting up, and I hope that you are all doing well, staying healthy. We are actually going to have something a little bit different this week. In fact, it's totally different from anything we have ever done before, and I'm telling you, you are going to need to go download the entire podcast because this week we have something extra special for you. I'm actually going to be talking about it here in a few minutes, but trust me, it will be worth your time in this weird time. Hey, hope y'all are doing well. Let's go ahead and get started. Wednesday, April 15th, 2020, you are listening to the Daily Dose Sports Podcast, and I am your host, Clint Daly, coming to you from the Mile High City right here in Denver, Colorado. And yes, we are back for another week of talking sports with a dose of common sense. Hey, happy Wednesday to you. I hope that your week is off to a good start. I hope that you and your family and your friends, you're all staying healthy. We are happy to have you here with us today. Now, we all know this date, April 15th, at least here in the States, for one very, very important reason. Because April 15th here in the USA is traditionally National Tax Day. Yes, it is the day that your federal and state income taxes must be filed by. Now, this year, we're actually getting a little bit of leeway from our lovely government because of all of the craziness going on this year, they have actually extended our tax due date until July 15th. Of course, this doesn't make that much sense this year because the 1 year that we are all actually at home with nothing to do and actually like having the time to just do our taxes, this is the year that they postpone National Tax Day. We've all like got these done. We're just sitting around looking for something to do. We actually did our taxes for a change. Of course, they extended National Tax Day. That just makes sense. Speaking of making sense, it is actually also today National Titanic Remembrance Day. Each year on April 15th, this day is dedicated to the memory of all those who lost their lives when the 883-foot in length British passenger sea liner, the Titanic, sank into those icy waters off the North Atlantic Ocean in April of 1912. Now, today, we remember the more than 1,500 people who died that day. Of course, they called the Titanic the unsinkable ship, and it had a number of amenities on it. I mean, the Titanic had a gymnasium, which is kind of weird to think about. It had multiple libraries. It had a swimming pool. Of course, it had all the cabins. It had multiple restaurants, and it even had a wireless telegraph mechanism. Now, the Titanic had over 1,300 passengers. It had nearly 900 crew members. But get this, it had just 20 lifeboats. 20 lifeboats for like 2,200 people. What was the planning process here? This actually sounds like a government operation if I've ever heard one. You know, the more I think about it, Tax Day and Titanic Day on the same day, yeah, somehow that actually makes a whole lot of sense, especially this year. Hey, if you'd like to contact the show, maybe tell us how your life feels like the Titanic right now. We would love to hear from you. Hit us up on email, dailydosports@gmail.com, or go find us over on Facebook or Twitter. Both of those handles are at Daly Dose Sports. And you know, I've been telling you this the past few weeks. I know so many people on quarantine. If you're bored, if you feel like you need to reach out to someone, please drop us a line, send in whatever it is that you have. Sometimes it just helps to, have someone interact with. Maybe you've got a question for us. Maybe you've got a comment for us. Whatever you've got, send it over to us. We would love to hear from you. Also, hey, we're all doing the same thing, right? We're all doing all the online shopping. We're like shopping everything like off Amazon and all these other different places. Make sure you stop by tpublic.com and pick up some Daily Dose gear. Hey, tpublic.com is doing a lot of sales. They've been like having sales like 30% off of everything. So go over there and get some of the Daily Dose gear we have over there. We've got t-shirts, we've got sweatshirts, we've got hoodies. Maybe you need a new coffee mug because yours is, stuck at the office or something and you need one at home. Just go pick up some Daily Dose gear over there. All you have to do is go to tpublic.com, search Daily Dose in the search bar, scroll down until you see our logo, and there you're going to find exactly what you need. So make sure that you stop by over there. Before we get into what we have for you this week, and we've got something a little bit different for you this week, I did hear from more than a few listeners about our show last week where we named some of the greatest games in sports history. Mike from Castle Rock actually stopped by, and we talked about some of the greatest games of all time that would be worth your time to watch, especially right now when we're all kind of cooped up with nothing to do. And I did hear from a few of you about games that we missed. Now, I'll tell you right now, I'm not making any excuses. I'm truly not, I swear. But I will say this. Mike and I did run out of time before we got to a few more games. We actually had, when we got done, we actually had a few games that were like, oh man, we didn't get to talk about this one or this one or this one because we just ran out of time. Hey, an hour is what it is. We tried to get in as much as we can. But I will say this. Here are a few games that we actually had on our list that we just didn't get to. Super Bowl 53, Eagles versus Patriots. That was one. Super Bowl 13, Steelers versus Cowboys. We did have Patriots versus Giants Super Bowls. You know, they played those two and they were very, very good. We actually had Tim Tebow and the Broncos beating the Steelers in the playoffs. Hey, that was a really, really good game. So was, the drive or the fumble. The fumble, I think, actually might be a little bit better of a game to watch from beginning to end than the drive was. We did have Alabama beating Georgia in the national championship a few years ago in college football. Magic Johnson's baby hook against the Celtics back in '87. Of course, Ray Allen hitting the three for the Heat against the Spurs back in 2013. We had a few games like that we wanted to get to. We just didn't quite have the time to get to them. Hey, I hope that maybe over the last few days, you were actually able to go back and watch some of those games that we talked about last week. I'll be very honest. I actually have watched a few of the games that we talked about. I went back and I watched the 1958 NFL Championship between the Baltimore Colts and the New York Giants, and it was interesting. I would say, yeah, it's a good game, but it was actually a really sloppy game. It was way sloppier than I expected. There were 7 turnovers in that game, and the broadcast network actually had some technical difficulties. So there's a number of times that they just come on with a picture and they just say, we're having technical difficulties, and you're missing chunks of the game. I will say this, though. Colts quarterback Johnny Unitas, he was really, really good. He was so accurate. He put the ball exactly where he wanted, and he actually moved a little bit better than I was expecting. And I did watch some college basketball games. I watched the national championship between North Carolina State and Houston, and I know North Carolina State didn't have the talent that Houston did, but wow, was Thurl Bailey really, really good. He went right at Akeem Olajuwon. Really good stuff there. I did also watch Villanova beat Georgetown in the '85 championship. Villanova just played a perfect game, and Ed Pinckney, much, much better than people might have thought. Some very good games out there for you to watch. I hope you were able to go back and watch a few of them, but I just want to kind of, throw that out there. It's not that we forgot some of those games, although I'll promise you we did forget some games, but we just didn't have a chance to get to all of them. Now, let's look forward to what we have today, because today on the show, we are doing something completely different. I mean, completely different than anything we have ever done on the Dose. We're actually not going to dig all that much into the state of current sporting events, because honestly, I'm not really getting ready to talk about professional athletes like playing video games or playing horse or whatever. And yes, I give y'all some credit. You're trying to get some things done, but it's just not that interesting to me. So there's not a ton to talk about, for one. But we also have something else. I wanted to do something completely, utterly different today than we've ever done. But before we get to that, remember, we are now placing a video portion of the podcast over on YouTube. So make sure that you head over there, you subscribe to the Daly Dose on YouTube. And I have to say thanks to everyone who's going over there and watching the videos. Each and every week we're getting listeners. So make sure that you stop by YouTube and check out the new video of the podcast that we're doing every single week. We appreciate you doing that. Okay, YouTube, this week on the show, we are actually in a really weird time in the world right now. And you know what I've noticed? Just in watching people, like you go to the store if you have to get out, or you're just walking down the street taking a walk or whatever, there is so much fear and so much anxiety. And there's like this lack of just rational thinking right now because people are just so worried. They're so concerned. They're just kind of freaking out. So this week, I want everyone to think about this one very important thing. I think it's really, really bad for us, physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever you want to say, for us to just live our lives right now in fear. This week on the podcast, we are going to be joined by longtime basketball coach and longtime friend of mine, Russ McKinstry, is going to stop by, and we are going to talk about some very real, very specific ways for people to deal with the adversity that is going on in our lives right now, and how to beat that fear that we might be feeling like every single morning, every single day when you get up and you're just kind of in this weird place. Like, what do I do today? I'm stuck in the house. Everything seems weird. We have all these unknown things going on. And so we wanted to just have Mac on and talk about fear and adversity, because we have had to deal with so many of those situations in sports. When we were coaching, we taught a number of our kids that we coached how to deal with situations where you're totally out of your comfort zone. It's a weird time right now. Those lessons that we were teaching, though, they absolutely carry into life, into what we're dealing with right now. So I'm telling you right now, make sure you go download the full podcast this week. Hopefully it is something that is going to help you. And maybe you're sitting there saying, well, I'm not struggling with it. Then maybe it'll help someone you know. I hope everyone out there is staying healthy. Keep your heads up. We are going to get through this. Hey, have a great week, everybody. I'll see you all next week.